I'm Emma Daly Klein.
I'm Michael Sparling.
We're being late. We're working this out though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we've gotten a little lax on the starting right on time. We gotta be
We have to tighten up.
tighten up.
Mm.
Life's busy.
Mhm.
Golly, I feel like I have to rush to the desk these days more than I was before. I was usually casually here a few minutes in advance. Now it's like, get up there.
Welcome to my world. And the thing is,
Yeah,
no matter how much I need to learn to meditate before, because it's like, well, if I have an extra 5 minutes, then I'm just gonna cram something else in.
yeah.
Mhm. All right. Well, so cute story about flour before we get started, because hopefully all you guys read the blog. It's so funny because I have so much written content that I never pushed out. And it's like, oh my gosh. I hope you guys are ready.
Are, are you are you pushing it out as is the whole? Oh boy, he froze. You still there?
I'm here.
Okay. You're live again. Uh, I mean, the whole visual deal with your new
Yeah, it's
visual
interesting.
blanket is pretty distinct and rich. I think it's cool, right? Like it's almost one of those things where you need to like stop and study the image, right, a little bit more.
Oh, the
Um,
the bad part, yeah, I love it, because the bad
yeah,
part that there's the possibilities are like insane. So I'm like, and then it's like you have to stop. you know
but the structure you're also putting in along with the visual is just like an additional kind of yeah, a component that will evolve, and like you say, you just gotta kind of limit limit how far you go with it, right? Because you get distracted in your creative space, I'm sure. But the structure and organization that you've been putting together recently, like how much of your old content are you um, gonna push out just as is, and how much will you be, you know,
None. I won't.
feeling the need to kind of tweak it to fit it into an overall path framework
I
that
guess.
um,
Yeah, because the thing is, when I say old content, I just mean unfinished. Like,
yeah,
the idea would get 90% there. So I would imagine I'm going to finish it out.
yeah, yeah.
'Cause I get stuck on dumb things like, I don't know what photo should go with this, or, I don't know. So, like, the 10% was the drag. But this is
Hmm.
just fun because I've always wanted to go back to this. I've talked about this forever because for those of you guys that have been around a long time, I had a blog called So I Was Up in the Arena. And this was like the early 2000s. And then a little bit before that, I had an email list of like 15 people. Remember that, Michael? I think you were on that. Maybe not. Maybe you were
I
not
don't,
on that
I
one.
don't think I would. That was.
I remember being in the Pirelli office. You remember the old computers, like on the campus? They
Mhm.
had the office and they were like the old computers. And yeah.
Yeah.
Fun. So anyway, my cute flower story. I just want you guys to. Good morning, you guys. Susan, you were in my dream last night. Sarah, hi. Good morning. Emily, good morning. Julie, good morning. Um. So, Michael, it's finally only one hand, but able to pat her over the eye. Oh my gosh! And I want to kiss her face so bad. Oh,
Not
but
kissable yet, huh?
nope, 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 nope. Nope. It's closer. It's closer. So anyway, penny tactics versus $1 million skills. You know what word I got stuck on for a long time was tactic. And we like tactics a lot of times in other. I think, but in horsemanship, I don't know. What are your thoughts? And you guys, if you read the blog, Lisa Overhuel, I hope you're here this morning because I always love hearing her responses to
I,
My written content over the years.
I don't know. I think, like I said, I mean, you should probably kind of explain the overall scope of the statement penny tactics, but then I think what we'll want to do is describe some what is meant in semi-concrete form, some examples of what might be a penny tactic, and I have some thoughts on a larger way of describing that we can get to. But why don't you start with what you mean when you say penny tactics versus $1 million investment?
Yeah, the two, well, because you guys know how much we've been talking, we are always talking about the scaffolding, right? We're always talking about the culture between our horses and us, right? And then of course that extends to like a personal friendship like Michael and I, that it extends to you guys and Michael and I, and on and on. But so then, did you like my Pursuit Mountain? Oh my gosh, wait until that is like
I think
fleshed out more.
I think it's funny that you got this whole like wilderness mountain business as if you're experienced as an expeditionist or mountaineer.
Was mountains when I was like a little kid in Vancouver, Canada. So
Yeah.
come on, it's deep in my psyche. Also, reading Lord of the Rings when you're 12 years old will get it
Yes.
in there. Okay, so here is the thing. When basically, what is the difference between just having a mechanic, right? And having a mechanic, meaning, you guys, a mechanical skill, a mechanical movement, something that like moves the feet, right? Like something that moves the feet, something that helps us connect the horse in its physical body to us, and also, will add up to the things we need to do with our horses, and we want to do with our horses. So mechanics are a real thing. The things we do are real. And I want those. But what is the difference between just having a checklist, just having a task accomplished, just getting it done? It worked. And what is the difference between that and having a real treasure that will compound and fit into the next thing and gather interest on its own? What is the difference? Because and I think of one particular horsemanship program that's very old. I mean, many decades old now, that we don't need to mention. But he made his fortune on, like, look, you guys, there's no other bullshit. Just do this XYZ, and you will get a result. Okay, and lots of people liked that. And I remember, because it was kind of opposite Pirelli at the same time, and I remember people specifically saying, and I loved it that they weren't ashamed. My friends be like, look, I don't need all that other philosophy and theory or whatever. I don't care. I just want to know
Just
what
want
to,
results.
yeah, I just want to know what exactly to do when I get out there with my horse. And that is totally fine. But that's not what we're doing. And so I guess and then, I was thinking about the thing where you and I always talk about how if you present a horse with A and C, if they're in the right frame of mind, they'll come up with B on their own,
Hmm.
you know? And then, of course, the wild horses or the clean ones, whatever, wherever you get a clean one, mine are from the wild, or out of the pens. Then it's like, okay, well, what do I want to put in there? And the way that you build something from scratch is like, well, I mean, does it matter if she can pick up her feet? Yeah. But do I want to take the opportunity to add so many more things with that? Right. Or the same thing with the horse trailer. Like I loaded Revlon, for the first time the other day. Debbie had the awesome setup in the arena with her trailer that has the perfect, floor, and oh, so nice. But bringing Revlon into the arena, um, she's like, she notices people, places, changes, and things, as Pat Pirelli would say. And so it's an opportunity when I'm 100 feet away from the trailer to start to build on leading by, finding the sweet spots, turning loose on two sides. When you have something new on one side, it's natural for a horse to be okay. So then by the time you get to the trailer, this is an expansion of a whole set of things. Is that a good way to, I mean, I don't know. Michael's
Man,
gonna
I'm following you 100%, having thoughts along the way. So the way I would describe that, or just typically describe it, is rather than have it be direct line to, okay, got to get them used to the trailer. Don't even be thinking about the trailer as task. Um, you know, check this off a list. That's my goal. Think my goal, the task or the opportunity that the trailer presents or the scary end of the arena presents is not, "God, I got to get them through the scary end of the arena." It's an opportunity to test the tactics, the mechanics, the bound up in the philosophy of finding center, getting united, turning loose with that new distraction and increasingly close to that distraction. So the creeping up on it is the value. I'm not saying you have to creep up uber slowly, but as progressively as is fitting for you and your horse. But the creeping up on it, the introducing it, saying, here's an opportunity. People say all the time, oh, you have such a great environment here. There's so many distractions and, you know, whatever, which is absolutely true. Um, but the opportunity is not just exposure. The opportunity is in the midst of the exposure saying, focus in here, focus in here. Let me help you find center. Let me show you where center is, not just eventually the horse gets okay with it, right? Um, there's an element of that, just being in a chaotic environment. um, chaotic in the sense of busy and, lots of coming and going and noises and all of that, or new horse coming in, training and coming in to get grain. There's the, this is new and kind of scurrying, and then they learn a routine and they kind of find a flow to it. All of that um, exposure takes place, but what it's how you take advantage of those distractions or those challenges to the horse's piece, their sense of safety, to build credibility with them, eh,
and then
toward toward a deeper, um, toward just more depth in your ability to direct the feet and help them find peace. Okay, fine. If there's zero distractions, you're out in the pasture, your horse, you can walk up and your horse is just like, oh, this is great. And then you kind of sort of get them doing some of your groundwork and getting united and understanding different components of that now you have something, and you can, rather than just you know having nothing, throwing them into a chaotic environment and then trying to establish something there where there's no way, like, they're not going to be like, oh, this is just like the pasture, I'm going to come up and you're going to rub on me and you're my buddy. Like, we just showed up at this arena. There's more happening than I have ever experienced in my life, and we got nothing going on. Right? That, not that that's impossible, because I deal with that all the time. But same as the value of, not every day do you get to go to a clinic with 25 horses and spectators and the whinnying and the
Friday.
the barn. Yeah. So all of those things are an opportunity, not just something to, you know, through repeated exposure, hope your horse gets okay with it.
Yeah, and then instead of, but see, it's like people are like, oh well, I just want the thing, I want
Hmm.
the tactic to achieve the thing, you
Hmm.
know. And it's like, yeah, the only thing is, this is what I'm trying to put my finger on, is if you think of it more of like creating a stake on the blockchain, whatever, a different, more of an investment, then you do, then not only do you get the one mechanic, then you have access to like a whole bunch of them. It's not just the feeling or the way of being, which is a huge part of it, but it's all, that was the part that I was trying to put my finger on. It's like, again, the trailer is a good example just because there's so many things involved. You're putting so many things together, right? To to add up to being able to load your horse confidently around and jump out, having them load confidently and back out. Like there's you're putting like so many things together. Um if you wanted to, that then add up to like a million other things that you would want to do with your horse, that if you just put alfalfa in the trailer and put the horse loose and then it loads itself, it's like, or even if you were to walk them up to it, it's like, do you know what I'm saying? So it's,
Well, what I'm thinking as I read your blog post and describing, you know, let's go back a little bit more to some examples of penny versus investment. So there's one you just mentioned: lead them up to the trailer, hay in the trailer. Um, you know, one I think of is very similar to the trailer. Just get them in the wash stall, and by repeated going in there, they're gonna eventually get okay with it. But the focus is so much on the wash stall rather than the turning loose leading up to it, the approach and retreat that's a little less mashing on them, the getting your horse, um, turn loose going around and committing to leaving soft in, whether it be the round corral or on the end of a lead rope. Maybe you have a longer lead rope and you're, giving them more space, getting them to leave soft, make transition soft, maintain gait soft. Very different than, okay, I got my horse to make that transition a handful of times, but it never got soft. So to me, some of what we're talking about is these pennies might not, in some cases, definitely shortchange you, pun intended. In other cases, they might be the tactic might be something that you would utilize, but unless it becomes part of an integrated whole, or it's carried through to the point of it gaining you something that it will carry forward, right? Unless you collect a few of the pennies, or you get the penny is truly in your possession rather than you're digging around for it and getting it closer to you in the edge of the wishing pond or whatever while you're trying to Skype a penny from the wishing pond. Whatever. I'm sorry, Corey. My analogy that I'm trying to build here is really not helping. In any case, like, you have to collect them and then have them be part of the larger investment, right? So, you know, just getting a transition, even if it's a little bit like, okay, you made it there, like, okay, there's something to that. But if you leave it there, all we have is a penny that doesn't get you anything the next time, right? So it can be a try, but it's the age old question of, to what degree is that try going to carry over, um, in that it wasn't just an escape. It wasn't just going through the motions. The horse made a decision, the horse thought through, found an answer, became more sure of what they were doing. And that's a calculation um, that I think is oftentimes a challenging one, because trying too hard to get it to set completely when your horse is running out of gas, or you're just not sure you're going to have the skill to get there, and so you want to bank something, right? So in one sense, I think of a penny as an incompleted thing, but going, well, I got something, which is not entirely a bad thing, right? But until it's carried through to it going to the bank and being invested as a part of the integrated whole, you're just collecting change in, and then
And you might not even collect, like in the best case scenario,
you're
you get,
reaching for the coin in the edge of the wishing fountain, but you're not really accumulating anything.
that's right.
Yeah.
You know, one I think of that just is one of the very first ones is get the head down.
Hmm.
Like, I mean, that's probably the best one. The best example of like, I just want my horse, I say you put the martingale on or you do whatever weird shit you do to put the head down and you're like, okay.
Heads
I mean,
down. Check.
like the difference between having the horse turn loose and be soft through the whole body so that the skull can hang off the spine is like, I mean, I don't know how much more of a stark difference you can get from a penny tactic, but the trailer one is still, and the wash rack one still good, and yeah, it can be confusing. Rick has that issue. He will do what I ask, but not always relax, let loose, additionally soft. Yeah. Corey says, Michael, she says, Michael, it's a pretty good metaphor. When you started talking about money, I was thinking you could just spend a penny as you get it. That's what I was
Yeah.
kind of thinking, or invest
Yeah.
it for a future purchase. That's what I was thinking too. It's like a penny tactic. For instance, you could buy well, way before any of us were born, you could
Bubble
buy
gum.
yeah, bubble gum or taffy or something like that. And then you have it, and it's like, I mean, yeah, yeah, but what then? It's
Hmm.
just a different. I guess it's just a different value marker, right? Oh, and then Michelle. So Hans wrote two books that I know of that I have. One of them signed. Oh my gosh. The Art of Training and the Art of Riding are the two. I think I put a link to his Wikipedia in my blog. I added that like later last night, so you could probably look it up. Um, you know what I'm saying, Michael? It's like, eh, I guess the part that I was struggling, it's like, because when a person is like, look, to me, my horse did this, and it's like, okay, awesome. Y- you
Well,
know,
I mean, I guess there's the, to me, I'm thinking of like a different, like two different categories of pennies, maybe. One is like in a different currency, and like really, if not exchanged into your currency, is no value where you are
versus big.
living and what you're trying to accomplish, right? Versus, one, it's in the currency and it has value, but if you're only collecting pennies and you know you're not going to have enough to, you know the car breaks down, I don't have enough to actually, fix the car, because now we're in a duress situation. We're trying to travel the country. I'm literally somewhere else with my horse, but I don't have enough money in the bank to be able to get through this situation. I've only got the horse barely getting through things. barely turning loose, just getting the job done, but not maybe turning loose at all in a not stressful situation, right?
And I have
So
done that.
there's
I mean,
some, yeah, I mean, and that's what I was saying a moment ago. Like it's, even if trying to collect some pennies, stack them up so you can invest them, it is difficult to assure that what you're doing today is getting invested, is carrying over for the future, because you might be going, "Ah, this might be all I am capable of with my level of skill accomplishing today." And it's not to say that doesn't have value. Leaving it there and saying, "Well, I got it," that's where you're kind of missing the value. And that's some of the pennies that are maybe in different currency or aren't especially valuable. Is I got the horse in the trailer, but the horse, I got it, the horse in the trailer kind of through hook or crook. I was, you know, it was by the skin of my teeth and we slammed the door. That's not going to carry, right? Um,
and we see that all the time.
yes.
Specifically with trailer loading. We see that
And
all the time.
I've done so many trailer loadings where it's like, we're just gonna let this take as long as it takes. Like, might be out here in the freezing fucking rain, but do you want this to carry the next time, or are we just trying to get the job done? And it's like those last few minutes, or last quite a few minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, like saying, okay, it's pretty good, but it's not okay, like set. Leaving off that last 30 minutes, that's the make or break. That's the getting the pennies to stack up. If it's just, I eked it out, a horse went in, let's slam the gate, let's get it done. Whew. Sometimes that's necessary, right? You've only got so much time, right?
That's right. But that's not an
Okay.
investment.
But that's not an investment.
It's not.
That's kind of like, I got a few pennies and I spend them on taffy right away. I got the job done. I got got what had to happen, and that might be, take it outside of trailer loading or something that the average person is doing. That might be out on the ranch. I get the job done. I, sacrifice my horse a little bit because I got to get that calf roped and doctored, or, you know, I'm mashing on my horse a little bit because he's got to doggone get up there and stop that herd before they start filtering out through the gate and we lose the whole thing, or lose a handful of them and then spend the rest of the day again. So, or you've got your saddle horse and they're not quite prepared for the task at hand, and you're working with a pretty wily one and your horse is whatever, but leaving it there, getting the job done, can actually cost you if you don't go back and go, okay, I got to work that out so the next time we're in that situation, the framework, the skills, the pennies stack up to where I'm not spending pennies every time I'm trying to get something done, because that's all I've got, right? And instead, I'm actually getting to where those experiences, like we talked before, are an opportunity for the horse to grow, to go through something stressful, to see the trailer for the first time and go, I don't know. And then rather than going, today we got to get in the trailer, or today we have to kick up and get this done, and the horse gets kind of jacked up. Okay, fine. But going back and getting the components ready, using those opportunities to develop the young horse, develop the horse that hasn't been exposed to that stressful situation, hasn't been loaded in the trailer, um, in that manner, just offering, and there they go, doing going through the process of using that to build credibility, strength, foundation in the horse that will carry over and have compounding interest. So,
That's right. And then the other thing is, Okay, so there's one other little nuance. Like, okay, so you can take the penny and invest it, right? Or you also could just choose $1 million over a penny. That's part of it. Is like there, and that's where I was like thinking the difference between, for instance, with Revlon, just setting it up so she would go in the trailer one way or the other, you know,
Hmm.
putting the hay in, not leaving her loose, walking her up to it with food in it, whatever. I could have chosen that, and that would have been a penny. And then maybe if I had set it somehow, set it up, I could invest it, sort of. But also, I could just completely choose the other way, which is
Well,
get like 40,000 other things.
yeah. So I guess you could say you take the analogy a couple ways. Like, I want the immediate reward. I'm going to get the penny, but I'm going to spend it right away. And so it's, I got the horse in the trailer. I get my piece of taffy, and well, I come away with nothing more than the piece of taffy. Or I go, well, I'm going to maybe not get the taffy at all today, but that's lots of little pennies along the way, right?
Yeah.
And accumulating them. So you're not immediately getting $1 million, right, by not going into the trailer, but you're certainly accumulating something and it
Maybe,
gaining something right off the bat.
yeah, maybe that's where it breaks down, because it's like maybe, for instance, we go back to the tying the horse's head down, or using a martingale or something. It's like you're not even. I mean,
You are theoretically getting the job done if that's your only goal. So again, we're back to what is your
oh,
target, right?
yeah, yeah,
And I think by and large, people's target is some sort of harmonious cooperation, working together, and the horse understanding. But as I've said before, there are certainly people who can care less about how the horse feels about it as long as they do what they're told, right? And there's also people who want the horse to feel kind of jacked up, like that's what feels right, right? So it depends on your goal as well, right? Which obviously we have the same goal, which is where we can have the conversation because our values and um, target is the same thing.
yeah. I think a lot about it when I am, uh, as I'm creating content for the Horsemanship Insiders, as we're talking about, how do we work our way through a curriculum, a task list, a way of developing a horse, and we have said it a million times, like our little culture that we have, our little friend group, our little fellowship, thinking Lord of the Rings style, is like we're all on a similar pursuit, and therefore we can kind of, there's just things we can take for granted or assume that we've all agreed is valuable. Maybe that's a little bit like, y- you know agreeing on a currency. But uh, sometimes I get asked, and I'm sure you do too. I was curious how you deal with this question, where someone's like, just tell me what to do. And and I know all the theory. I know all the philosophy. And my brain just goes, because it's like, all the theory and all the philosophy. How? Because I don't. Like, where'd you learn all that to the point where it's done? First of all, so my brain just freezes at that point. And secondly, you know, I don't know. How do you say that? that we're all on this kind of this shared hike, but there's different details within the same pursuit. Um, and what I find myself wanting to make sure as I'm building out this Lord of the Rings style metaphor, it's like, yeah, but there's technical stuff. Yeah, but these practical things are very important. Yeah, but it, you know what I mean? It's like I being too far, like it has to work together. The practical thing married with the philosophical and theoretical is the and this is the thing I kept thinking of, is that's how I define a treasure. Like if we're on Pursuit Mountain, we're doing all these hikes, sometimes an easy day hike, sometimes overnight, sometimes like a serious multi-day expedition. So Isaac, my brother Isaac, um read the dispatch that was for the family, for you and Nathan and for the family. And he was like, one thing to know, because he like was on the metaphor right away. He's like, one thing to know, remember to tell people that the peak is something you want to visit because there's rewards, perspective, the experience, the feeling of accomplishment from getting up there, like all these things. He goes, but you don't live up there. I was like, that's right. Oh, okay. But again, what is the definition of a treasure? And that's where I know that a bunch of us, Susan, I was hoping that you could put put your 2 cents in here, like, because Susan and I have talked a lot about the list, because meaning that the list of things in the levels, the haltered levels, the loose levels, and the riding levels. And like if we think of the mountain, near the bottom, the beaches and the lowland forest, you have a braid of the haltered online and the loose liberty and the riding, and then eventually you're heading towards the singularity of riding your horse, and it all sort of coming together in true unity, right? But along the way you need to be picking up treasures, and those treasures are not just skills. A treasure is a combination of a mechanic, the philosophy, and the theory. Wouldn't you say? Principle too, Corey? Like we've worked really hard to try to define what makes it valuable. And so it was an interesting way to think about it, like a penny tactic. Like, I can.
Well, it can be like I was saying, if you think of pennies in a different, like, two categories of pennies, where it's kind of like just getting it done by the skin of your teeth, or getting a change, getting something in the direction you're headed, but it not it kind of being accomplished with tension, getting the job done, and checking the item on the list, but it not. So that's the where I pushed back for plenty of time on the list, is like the list can get people focusing on, I picked up that penny, picked up that penny, picked up that penny, but without the qualities to each of the items on the list, the tasks, that is going to cause it to be valuable as a contribution to the whole. It is the qualities, like you say, this program where it's like, just tell me what to do and get the horse to do it, and that's what I want. It- You'll get the horse doing things, but it also doesn't work for a lot of
And
horses, right? It's going to get you stuck with a lot of horses, and some horses will get by with it, and your horse might look, you know, broke and handy, depending on what your target is, but
so much.
how much connection is there in the horse? So if you're have the target of, you know, a mountaintop experience that the horse is enjoying as well versus, you know, we're out getting a job done. And you could do the both, but you can also do
Well,
one or the
hopefully,
other.
hopefully you definitely can do them both
Mhm.
if if you have attended to all the qualities at once,
Mhm.
you go. But it would be like being at base camp, and you need your first treasures or whatever, and they're right there amongst all the rocks. Like, just choose it. It's not. I mean, it's not like you have to pay some harder price necessarily. We can come up with all sorts of different metaphors. Like, for instance, the rocks could be heavy and the treasure could be not, or have some balancing capability, but it's not going to weigh you down. And speaking partially from experience, but also being around some of our friends and peers as we've gone along, and then people do the mechanics, build their whole bank on penny tactics, and then they're just not happy anyway. It's like, then it's like, well, I have a sack of pennies, and this is not at all what I wanted.
Mhm.
And then it's like, shit, 15 years have gone by. you know? Or you want to keep that horse, you know? Corey says, is the difference in the level of attention someone has to how the horse feels about the process? So each item on the list is more or less valuable based on that? Say more words. What
I
is
would
she
say
saying?
yes.
Is the difference in the level of attention someone has to how the horse feels?
How aware are you of how the horse is feeling about the whole
Yeah,
process versus just getting it done? How
here's
much are you prioritizing that?
yeah, it's just this is what I was hoping you guys could help me with, because again, I'll say it again, is it's not just how the horse feels, because the horse could feel very relaxed about crawling into the trailer to eat some alfalfa. He could feel very happy about that. And yes, the horse mechanically got in the trailer. But it also it's not even the same thing. Do you guys follow me? It's so sometimes the horse can feel good about that. But then what? You don't have what there are two different things to have, is all right, is like, if the horse can send confidently into the trailer, and Buck would love this part, because it's like the horse might have to go through some trouble to get something that they can invest, that we
Mhm.
have and then you get to the other side and the horse loads, like, I was thinking about Gary Bailey. I was under a tiny bit of a time crunch with Revlon. It's kind of interesting when you're talking about the last 10 minutes, because I did do it long enough to get the value, but you could have even done it more. Like, Gary Bailey would have stayed on there until she was loading with either front foot, either back foot. Like, it's like there's an additional bit that you could get out of it. Um, but it's just not this. So the horse might have gone through more trouble. You guys follow me? And felt maybe a little bit more concerned about it. And they might not even have the same, if they get sugar or something when they get into the trailer, they probably have different chemicals than if they have just clump, clump, clump into the trailer after they've been, had to think their way through the process too. Sorry about that, you guys.
Yeah.
Follow me, Corey? Like,
Yeah.
so but on the other hand, maybe you're right, because you could be like, well,
Well, on the one hand, you are absolutely right, because if there is an attention to how the horse feels in the process, as even if they go through stressful pieces to get there, you're arriving at the horse feeling good in the process, having figured out, you know, this is what works. I was very concerned about staying in there. I was pretty concerned about the butt bar going up. But, you know, working through that and the stress involved gets through to where the horse is not just, I'm content to be in here as long as I can back out right away. I'm content to come in here and eat the alfalfa as long as you don't put the butt bar up, because then all the peace goes away. So they might not feel entirely great about the process, but it depends on what you're calling the process. Are you calling that, you know, whole scenario, each moment of that the process, or are you calling that whole session, if you will, a block or a step to an investment toward the larger whole that in the end they need to finish feeling good about that process. I mean, it really does come back to, even if it gets a little intense, is the horse thinking their way through it? Are you giving them the space to think, or is it just an escaping? Like, is there too much pressure? Is there too much focus on the task? Um,
Did they learn that you can support them? Did they learn that they can find their way through to the middle despite being, or in
mhm,
spite of, rattled from the outside? Did they learn that you move their feet no matter what? Did they learn that you're in charge of the pocket of peace? Did they, so it's like there's a whole bunch of things collect that they can collect data about too.
mhm,
So it's learning also.
yeah.
And then not just learning, but learning to learn. Look, for instance, with Revlon, really there hasn't been anything super stressful for her. You know, Yesterday was probably the first day that she's really, well, maybe I just forget. I was thinking about that with Flower, my little wild mule. I was thinking how feather represents just success, like the Swedish, y- um I don't know, swimmer or something that's like, this is all so easy, and a flower's the struggle. But I was like, how quickly do you just forget? Thinking, is it that I am forgetting the feeling of living on that razor's edge, because it's just gone now, and that razor's edge will not come back, the way that it was. Anyway, it's funny to think about that. But my point is that, um, Revlon learning what it feels like to be a little bit rattled, to be pushing on me a little bit and get sorted out. There's a whole system that she's learning at this point too. And you think I was thinking about the difference between the Mustang. Revlon's a Mustang. The horse that broke my collarbone is a Mustang. And the difference between, and the horse that broke my collarbone had been in and out of the trailer a bazillion times. Then it was just a disaster, the whole thing. Now, very nice horse. It would have worked out. I mean, it was unlucky in a lot of ways. But just the total and complete different context. And that's what I'm saying. Like the penny tactic of, did the horse get in the trailer, or did I get to the thing that I want to do, the trail ride or the clinic or whatever.
And the thing that we haven't yet mentioned here is the pennies stacking up can actually be putting yourself in debt,
Yeah.
right? So you're actually spending money you don't have, spending, you know,
Difference between earning $1 million and winning $1 million, huh?
Well, not even winning, taking out loans.
Yeah.
And pretty soon you're crazy in debt, and your horse is going, I don't trust you worth the hill of beans, you know, because of the pressure that's been put on, and I'm doing these things, but I'm not actually letting, the horse being in a learning frame of mind, they don't learn anything if they aren't given the space and time to learn it. If it's just pressure, if they are, you know, completely inattentive to how the horse feels in the process and doesn't care how the horse feels in the end result, or maybe they do care, but they haven't taken the time to repeat it enough to where they get through it. It's just like a once in a while we get the horse in the trailer, and every time it's a make or break situation, or you know you don't take the time to get your colt handy enough and expose them gradually. You just kind of get in there and get the calves to the branding fire, like, over and over again, and that you know you're working backward, and or just like crossing your fingers and hoping that exposure works for you, right? And sometimes it doesn't, and sometimes it doesn't.
And even if it does, you still haven't gotten, you still just have the penny.
Yeah.
That is the thing. And it's, I guess in some ways it's like, well, if it's a real penny and not a fake penny, then at least you have a penny, which is better.
Hmm.
If you have a fake penny, you could be screwed. Like, in other words, if you have a debt, this
Hmm.
is the problem. But if you have an actual penny, but so I guess what I was just going to say is that I noticed there's a lot of people who really care. Like, they want their horse to be have all these additional qualities, but the actual methodology or the decision to choose a penny over $1 million, I'm struggling not to say a Bitcoin.
I know you
You
are.
know, but you know what I'm saying? It's like if you have a penny in Mars money or something, and that's even a bad. Anyways, my point is that you could want the $1 million, but repeatedly be picking up a penny because you don't know the difference.
That's, I think, the biggest thing, and that's where you know Corey said level of attention, but what I keep coming back to is awareness and the need for continual learning or education, of being shown how to put the pennies in a bank, how to make sure what quality in something that's going to carry you even looks like, or how to get there, or, as we've said time and time again, the order of things, that you're not just trying to get something that is missing so much foundation. You're not going to get to where that penny can be invested. You're at best ever going to be getting the horse to do it, because the horse has no foundation of understanding to where that could be accomplished in a relaxed, understanding manner, where the horse appreciates what you're doing, why you're doing, finding the center. It's just not accessible in reality, because the horse is not prepared for it. So, without
Mhm.
some level of education, and maybe the education is just you and the wild horse, right? But without valuing the target of unity and keeping that as your guidepost, it's not going to add up.
Yeah, I
And
think
then you
that's
could even have the value of unity and having that as your guidepost. And without, if your goal is not, or your focus is not on, and accomplish this under duress, or have my horse become a seasoned riding horse that I can take anywhere, or that I can do a job on, or that I can take to a high level. If that isn't your goal, that's a little different than what we're talking about, where it is full fledged, because you can have very much unity if it stays within your little realm and the horse, gets gentle, right? But if it's just a matter of I can get something done, like that's what you're going to get as your result. And so I don't know. I sideline myself in saying, but I think it's important. You don't like you can be a student of the horse. It's probably a much longer thing. And some people are more suited to that. Like they're a little more intuitive. They see the individual. That takes them a long way to listening and um, being aware of how the horse feels and where the horse arrives and whether it's of value to the horse. Um,
And you
but I know in the blog post you mentioned, the community and having a pathway kind of mapped out. If the goal is similar to where that pathway is headed, it can sure help you along the way. And I would say, I don't know, like I said years and years ago, you better darn try to put this into words. Otherwise, you know,
are
you're
you
uphill.
proud of me?
Yeah, you are doing pretty good. Right. But what I was saying then is what a pill. Right. So now so using your words, sorry, words against you.
Read that one to
Huh?
every. I wish we could read that one to everybody. Can you say it? Can you say it's
No,
so
it's absolutely true. But now
good.
you know what I'm saying, or was saying 10 years ago, 12 years ago.
Well, because but see the thing, I was thinking about Pursuit Mountain again, and I was thinking, being the one of the lead scouts and a head guide. One of the things I was forgetting, I should have looked it up. Do like free climbing and putting in little dealy bobbers for the ones behind you. What are those called?
Mhm. Anchors,
Anchors. Yeah, anchors.
or sometimes they're called pieces or cams, and there's different types.
But one I was thinking of like the cams, but that makes it a little bit of a scarier. I think some paths up the mountain are just simpler, and then I was thinking about base camp too, and like how the veteran climbers come back to base camp all the freaking time to relax, to hang out with the people, to recharge, to pick up whatever gems and treasures that they need for the next hike, whatever. And that made me think of, I suppose, like you're saying, there is just some experience necessary to be able to tell the difference between a penny tactic and $1 million skill, or, a gem versus a rock. It's like, okay, you're right, and that's why we say we can't
Well,
s- finish
a
the horse.
useful piece of gear or not, right? Like I have a
Yeah,
sleeping bag that's super cheap, and then I'm gonna freaking freeze to death the moment I get into altitude, versus I have gear that's going to keep
yeah,
me warm and allow me to get up the mountain, right?
yeah. Good way to say
So,
it.
and then the other thing is, even the most experienced climber always starts at base camp, right? They can't skip base camp, but they can say hey to folks on the way and march right through base camp because they already have all the gear. They have for years known what gear suits them, what gear they're good at using, what gear gets them up the mountain efficiently. They know the route, right? Even if they haven't scaled that mountain, different horse, different personality, they they have the skills to find the line.
That's right. That's right. And then I would just come back to the fact that even that individual that you're talking about, that knows the just a very experienced, let's just say a very experienced climber, this is what I was thinking, is there's still times you are going to lose or use up some of the gems that you need to go to, or the tools, or whatever we want to say, that you come back for the fundamentals, is what I was, thinking. If you lose them, if they get rusty, if whatever happens, it's a difficult situation, so you use them up, you come back. um you could come back a guidepost or two also. Let's say you're working on, you know flying changes, and your horse gets tight laterally. Okay, well, you're going to come back to sort out whatever it is that you need to get a little bit better, and then put everything together again. um then the more, I would imagine, the more you go up and down the mountain, the less you're gonna. Corey said she sees what I'm saying. It's difficult to put into words, saying that the horse values the stuff you're doing together. Yeah, right. Exactly. hmm And we could say in some ways that the horse can be. See, the thing is, the horse sometimes likes eating candy with you, but it's still not going to add up to like the things that you need for practicality. And I've been there, you guys. I have been there and done all these things. I was thinking about a chessboard too. Is like being able to move your pawn up one is and like thinking of seeing the whole. But I didn't like that. That is too flat. That I'm not a good chess player, so that's part of why I didn't understand that.
But you're a hell of a mountaineer.
He's making fun of me, but I am from. He thinks he's so much better than me because he's from Minnesota. It's like, look, I'm from the Pacific Northwest, so
Yeah, you have
born
more
and
access. Have you ever rock climbed? Like your risk
yeah.
tolerance seems rather low. I'm not imagining you rock climbing, going into extreme conditions.
No, you're right. Like, I have not done the kind of rock climbing that you have. However, you know what I'm really good at is endurance hikes. And not just through easy stuff, but yeah, not climbing on ropes, or what do they call it when they're up the face of the wall and you pitch your tent and you're like, what the hell is that called? I watched a cool documentary on that at a certain point.
I don't know what the term is for that. I mean, I know what you're talking about, but I don't know what.
So that's not what I'm envisioning, by the way. I'm not envisioning really any of that.
Yeah.
Um,
But if you're setting pieces and going up a face, that's like next level, right? And
you
that's more direct, and that's a certain style of climbing. I mean, there's all kinds of things you could
And you
say.
guys, makes perfect sense because Michael is the one who can ride a bucking horse, laughing all the way. Well, this is the equivalent of, him taking the harder, more technical route up the mountain, where I'm like, no thanks. I'm going around the side where it's like beachier, warmer. It's like spending more time on the
The
lush
sunny
side.
side,
Yeah,
the
crazy.
south-facing slope.
Exactly. And Michael wants to free solo the hardest part of the mountain. Okay. We don't have to do it that way, you guys. It's a fun metaphor, I think. But I suppose my overall desire in that blog post was to partially just note for the record that if we are talking about a thing, there are they are literally different. A penny tactic is literally different than $1 million scale. And a penny tactic in and of itself is not going to grow as an investment magically to $1 million scale. maybe on the other hand, I guess maybe over time, like if I learn to, yeah, I don't think so though.
I mean, again, if the penny tactics are like your learning process, like lots of switchbacks. Okay, that switchback, I ended up somewhere where I can't make that progress right now, and I got to go back. But I at least explored, right? I learned something. I learned that didn't work, right? I tried that tactic. The penny didn't work. I'm trying to figure it out even with a guide. I'm a little off on my own right now because the guide was back there helping someone else or whatever, not available at the time, but I'm going to get out there and do some climbing. It, as long as the target remains the harmony, the unity, and the well-roundedness, the
The friendship that you get to move your own body, you get to bring things to the table. This is an
and
actual partnership. Like,
and value for the horse.
mhm.
Eva was actually telling me she was riding moonshine. I'm not sure I have the exact description, but I think should go out to the pasture, just hop on him bareback. I don't know if she even has a halter, just hop on him and then ride in. Um, I think she had the pan of grain. She hops on him with the pan of grain, if I understood correctly, and goes dumps the grain in the pan and then tops off and he eats the grain. But moonshine is lower on the in the pecking order than this other little mare she has in him, and that mare is pretty aggressive and tells him where to go. And she hopped on Moonshine, and Moonshine was like, "All right, here we go. Now we're in charge. She's on my back." And she's like, "Okay, cool. Like you have more status, but you're still my feet. Like you don't get to just become the bully that she is, because when I'm available, protect you from her and tell her knock it off. Don't be chasing him around." And so when you add value to the horse, that I mean that's kind of what we're one of the components of scaling the mountain is the horse is going with you. The horse is seeing the vista too. You're not just selfishly scaling the mountain at the expense of your horse, broken down and tired by the time you get there, just doing their deal.
Or at all if it ends up being that the horse is dead weight. Hmm.
So
Hmm. Michelle, whenever things feel like they might go sideways, I try to imagine how it could be fun somehow, like it is for Michael. Yes, me too.
I was pretty happy I didn't witness it. I maybe mentioned on the show the other day. I guess Eva was riding um, little POA named Peppy, and it went pretty wild. It was like, okay, let's move out, and then Peppy was like, all right, let's go. Maybe even hopped around a little bit, and I guess Eva was smiling and laughing the whole time. I'm like, yeah, there we go. That's what I like to see. I didn't see it, but that's what I heard.
It's yeah,
The witnesses reported.
yes. I would be a lot more apt to be like that in some circumstances than others. But like Michael, I know I've told this story before, but I have to just say it again. So imagine you guys the ultimate high pressure situation at Buck Brannaman's home, in the round pen, like the most famous colt starting situation you can have right now, except for, I guess, Road to the Horse. And here we all are in the pen, we're all doing our deal. And all of a sudden, here's Michael on this giant black, but that was the black horse, right? That big, huge, soggy black horse.
Mm-hmm. This is
And
just, I think, a very dark bay, but yeah.
yeah, 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 a dark bay. And I mean, there they are. It's not like he had to make he had a handle on the
That
horse a
that
little.
one was funny though because like I saw the pictures afterward. I'm like, I didn't even feel like that. Like that looks more extreme than it felt. Like it felt just like big dolphin jumps. Like when they're lined out, I don't know. To me, that's
Yeah,
it's
but the
just
but
turn
Michael's
loose
look.
and go with it. It's when they like snake up, get balled in one spot, start spinning. It's like, or do a quick duck to the side, whether it be down or a leap up. That's when it's hard. But that horse in particular, like Nicole has a picture, and I'm like, wow, that does look like I was riding something, but it didn't feel like much in the moment.
Imagine you guys, we would be looking down and like our eyes would be bugged out. And Michael's like looking up, all the teeth are showing, you're like, and Buck, on his horse, he's like, so great. He's like, that's my friend. I kind of hate him. Michael might have fun with Remy then. Yeah, he's going to be 17-3. Oh yeah, this is Michael Sparling's wheelhouse for sure. Is the giant warm bloods. Yeah. So anyway, I'm glad we had a chance to talk about it. Do you guys have any other thoughts? Lisa, I wanted to hear your thoughts. She's probably working and listening at the same time, but I think okay, I want to say the same thing over and over again. Just in the sense that I think it's worth knowing that
Hmm.
that there could be a difference. Is that worth knowing? I feel like that's worth knowing. And then we might not always be able to discern which is which. That's possible too, you know. But just, and it's not the end of the world, I guess. If you pick up a penny and it's not drawing a debt, that's your
Even
first.
seeing what a debt looks like, recognizing that you might be taking out what's the word I'm looking for? Drawing credit, but like
Uh-huh.
what's
Yeah.
a paper? There's a paper. Yeah.
A,
Anyway,
a note?
yes, there we go. I don't know why I couldn't think of that.
Yeah, a debt, a note, a lien.
Yeah,
I
a
remember
note. A note is the word I
mm-hmm.
was looking for.
Yeah, writing.
Picking up a note rather than an actual, gaining anything by it. Like that's something you have to,
Getting an overdraft charge. Maybe we could
yeah.
say that. If you write a check, you can. But it's hard to know. Like it's hard to know. That's the problem. Is if it doesn't work out bad. If it seems to work out in the moment, that's the tricky part. If it all
Mm-hmm.
bad, and the horse is flipped over backwards and won't load, and then you're like, oh well, that was bad. You
Mm-hmm.
know, and that is worse. Maybe at a certain point you have so many overdrafts you have to close the account or declare
Mm-hmm.
bankruptcy or whatever. Shoot the horse and start again. I mean, I don't know. But then there are times when it's like, yeah, you are accumulating pennies, um, and that is better than nothing or better than negative, better than debits. If you have deposits rather than debits, this is good. But there's ways to do it that are just so much more high value. And I'm sure that for you and I, there's so much more to learn too of how to do
Mm-hmm.
and have it be $1 billion investment or, $1 trillion investment. The difference between, I don't know, finding an agate on the beach maybe at times and finding a rare earth mineral that you can make a semiconductor out of. I don't know. Something like that. Lisa says, I get it. There's definitely a difference. I'm just thinking of the difference between having to take the pennies in the moment. Ooh, when you have limited time. Yeah, I guess the only thing that I'm thinking, Lisa, in regards to that is I'm talking about horse development. Not like there's a fire we have to load, or it's after the clinic and you can't stay here and you have to load, or we have 400 cows to put on the truck and they're losing dollars every second. because they're sweating and defecating, and now they're, it's gonna weigh less when you go over the scales. Like, okay, but that's not a way to those could be debits, right? Like those could be debits that you have to pay back later, but it's not the same as choosing to develop your horse by using penny tactics to pick up pennies versus choosing to develop your horse where you're just making $1 million deposits and eventually just get to walk away and come back. And in the best case scenario, we've probably all experienced this, where you've had a couple like rocking days and you come back to the horse up 4 months later and you're like, oh, this is better. Why would I even bother riding?
Mm-hmm.
This is better than it was anyway, because the investment has grown. That's what I kind of think, Lisa, in response to your comment.
Yeah. But I think
Susan.
so much of it is awareness.
Yeah. Yeah. And coming back to the idea, like, oh, I don't want the theory or the philosophy. I got all that. Just tell me what to do. That's what made me think of Hans. And I'm so glad that I got a semblance of that image of Hans, sitting at the edge of the arena. It's not perfect, but it is, he would be wrapped in a horse blanket or a blanket, and he had the old school microphone like this instead of he didn't even have one he could wear on his head. He would hold it in his gloves, and multiple times these ladies would come over and he would want to reference something that he wrote in the book because it was going to turn the conversation into a much more high value exchange, right? But the girl, I remember a couple in particular where I remember thinking at the time, these dressage riders who were riding pre St. George or whatever, and they really thought they were hot shit. And it's like when they said they hadn't even read his book, and he would he always just tried to hide his disappointment, but you could see it because then the whole conversation was going to have a different level of value. And I'm sure, especially since he was in his 80s when I met him, he wanted to pass on the riches, right? But when you're in a situation where you have 40 minutes or 50 minutes to try somebody, and they clearly ride up to you, and quickly you can realize they're just interested in picking up pennies, then you have to recalibrate.
The other
So
day, the other day I had I was helping someone, ended up taking the horse, kind of demonstrating, talking through the whole thing, coach them a little bit. And then this other gal goes, my horse kind of does the same thing. How would I address that? I'm like, I just described it, demonstrated it, coached someone through it. You just said my horse does the same thing. Maybe do the same thing or at least something similar. And then let's talk. But it was kind of funny. I had to chuckle. It was one of those where it's like, I don't have an answer for you. Sorry.
it's funny because I was
There are no
thinking,
stupid questions, but like when the
well,
answer was just shown to you, explained to you, like all the information was laid in front of you, and then to ask, what's the information I need? It's kind of
yeah,
strange,
the
but
teacher, probably we've all have this experience to some degree. And as the teacher, it just takes you aback at
yeah,
first. You're like, whoa, okay, really? Okay.
yeah.
you know, it's like, And in a way, it's like, well, thank God you asked, because I would have just assumed that you got it. I was thinking of clinics, Michael, teaching live clinics. Like, I'm so excited to come see you guys. It's custom cartography. Like me sitting on my horse, looking at you on your horse, taking into account your horse's education, your horse's state of mind, your horse's fitness, your horse's body style, your education, your level of fitness, your level of experience, your state of mind in the moment, and then coming up with custom cartography reading and heading for you in that moment. That is the value of coming to a live clinic to ride, for sure. So, let's say, Lisa, okay, hold on. You're coming through for me, Lisa. So she says, I get it. There's different thinking, having to take the ponies in the moment when you have a limited time. Sorry, let me read it one more time, Lisa. She says, there's definitely a difference. I'm just thinking of the difference between having to take the pennies in the moment when you have limited time. Yeah. And when you have to get an untamed horse to a safe location versus having endless amounts of time to invest it in the horse's future and your own future. Yeah, I realize that's what you're talking about. Just some thoughts from recent experiences. Yeah, we've had similar recent experiences for sure. But you can still try to invest with what you have. You can still get the untamed horse to safety in a way that invests a few pennies. Yeah. And of course, I agree that it's never about the thing. Yeah, she and I and you learned that at the same time. And getting one thing better can get several other things better, things you might not have thought about. Yeah. Apropos horses and riders, help me understand, who is this? Do we know who this is?
Christina, that's Pepe's owner.
Oh, Peppy's. Oh my gosh.
Is
One
that
or two.
is that a book or is
Apropos.
she asking? I think she's asking if that it's Hans Sen that you're referencing, which it isn't, but I think she found a book apropos horses and riders by Hans Sen.
I see. No, that's not the one I'm referring to, although that sounds interesting. Hans von Blixen Finicky. So if you go to the blog post that Michael and I are talking about, I'll try to put it in the comments on the show. But if you go to emmadailykleinblog.com, should be the most recent one. I have a link in that post to Hans's Wikipedia page. The two titles of his books are The Art of Riding and The Art of Training. Hans von Blixen Finicky, Swedish. Lisa says, like I recently helped a friend with her green horse getting started on your ABCs and worked on backing and leading up. When she left, she said she loaded into the trailer 100 times better. Right. Lateral thinking. Isn't that what? That's what Pat would say. Lateral problem solving. Trailer loading wasn't even our focus, but the other things helped. Yeah, for sure. Right, Lisa. So exactly. So you can like your lateral problem solving or gathering all these ingredients can add up to the thing, like trailer loading being super easy. I guess it's just you could think that just because you can lead your horse into the trailer for alfalfa and that was easy, that then you got all these other things too. It's like, well, yeah. And Lisa, so she's talking about loading horses like in an emergency. And I think of the time that Debbie and I were loading horses that hadn't been touched in, like, I don't know, 10 years or something. And we loaded them like cows. And I was not thinking about investing in those horses' future. I was just thinking about doing it in a way that the horses didn't get hurt and we didn't get hurt. So I don't know. I guess that's investing in their future. Live to fight another day.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, oh, we're right at 8 o'clock. Anything else, you guys? Do you have any other thoughts or comments? Um, I'm so excited that the clinic. I've been really thinking a lot about it. I feel like this is. Remember how we had the year of the hindquarters, the year of the forequarters. Remember we've had certain like big concepts throughout the last couple decades. I feel like this is a sideways year. Laterals. Year of the laterals. I think of the flying changes too, by the way. Like you could just, because I've done this, like you could just get the flying changes. I got a flying change. Like, that's a penny tactic for sure. If you're only thinking about the flying change, which I've done many times.
I'm kind of surprised Susan hasn't chimed in here more because
I
there's
know.
collecting
Oh,
pennies, drawing notes, lots of that going on. Not so much investments.
she's gonna
Um,
invest in me or something, maybe.
Horses mentally fractious, physically, I wouldn't say destroyed, damaged. That all sounds a little harsh,
Those
but yeah.
are,
What's
um,
that?
those are debts if you
Yeah.
are going backwards. And I mentioned that the other day when I was actually about to load Revlon because part of the challenge with having a really clean horse, like Michelle knows for the babies that she's raised, you're just like everything I do, there's no way I can be perfect.
Mhm.
I'm really trying not to rack up any debts here that I might have to repay.
Yeah.
Trailer loading wasn't even our fault. Oh, that okay. So Lisa said, I even think those moments where you had limited time can change how the horses think of something. Good point. Kind of like how they say that smiling at a stranger or paying them a compliment can totally change their day. Yeah, that's true. Oh, Susan. Hello. This penny analogy is going to roll around in my brain all day, but of course it will be a nickel where I'm from. Yeah, I know. That's why I had to. I was like,
We dropped the penny though too, so
yeah, we dropped the penny too. That's why I put that note on there. I'm like, this is not a very timeless piece. People are gonna have to like look it up. I don't know.
back in history.
Yeah, I mean, I know. Yeah, I just couldn't think of a better way. But that's why I had to put the stake on the blockchain in there. I don't know. Yeah, we're caught in between two times right now. So I didn't have a good currency. This is why we're going to totally abandon currencies for the Pursuit Mountain lore.
But
So
I was gonna say there's a lot of mountaineers and outdoor folks for which currency is not a motivator. It is the experience. It is you know, yeah, it is the
big
journey.
spent a gajillion dollars on your shoes and your
Yeah,
outfit and your robe and
but you live
stuff.
in a van, you know. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. Oh my gosh, you guys, the metaphor is just so fun. It is just so fun. I'm having the best time being able to sort of capture it and spread it out a bit. It's going to be great. But this is what I want. You guys help me because in the storytelling it can move it out of the practical. But it's like, this is practical. This is very practical. So, rare earth minerals, right? Corey. But I feel like that's just even a little like nothing fits exactly right now. That's all I have. Have to go feed the horses now. Yes, we all have to
How
go.
how accessible are rare earth minerals for the average individual? Like,
Um,
it's a little bit hard to relate to.
yeah, we're just not
Even
gonna
though on
get.
the mountain, theoretically outdoors, exploring, finding, how many of us are going to go searching and encountering rare earth minerals? It seems like a whole set of skills the average individual is not going to acquire.
Yeah, that's why we got to go back to the treasure.
Yeah.
Pickaxes, backpacks, satchels. Also, the
I
value
like
of
the shitty sleeping bag because it's cheap versus
that's
the
yeah,
yeah.
that's a good one. That's a really good one. Okay, what? So Corey, is that a symbol? I
What?
don't even. It looks. I don't know.
Laughing is the rolling on the floor laughing emoji.
Yeah, but
Is
there's
this,
another symbol in front of it. You don't see that?
I don't see that.
Oh, another odd. Maybe it's just like who knows. Okay, guys, we should go for the day. It's
Yep,
only
sorry.
4 weeks since I get to, and I'll be there. You guys are out of the deep freeze, correct?
Mm-mm. Next
Oh,
week it's supposed to warm up a little bit. The furnace quit, the same thing that happened when you were here, and I called Kip, and he talked me through it. The same thing happened again, and we had frozen pipes, but not broken pipes, so not split pipes. But I was up north where it was even more cold. Levi and I went to the Bear Grease sled dog race, which was super fun. Um, yeah, just anyway, my dad worked all weekend trying to thaw pipes and save the farm from disaster.
of
The sled
course.
dog thing would be something fun to talk about too, but
Yeah.
we don't have time for that. Maybe next week I'll remember some of the things. Talked to one of the vets that's been um, doing this for years and years. He has this massive parka, like looks like a big guy. I don't think he is a big guy, but just has so many layers, and there are probably 60 patches on his parka of all the races he has vetted for, and Iditarod and all over the place. So, any case, he had some interesting thoughts on performance and spinal alignment and stuff we can talk about next time, maybe.
Cool. All right. I'm trying to do a better job about the summaries on here real quick before I have to go outside and feed also. So maybe I'll mention that. All right. Well, thanks for being with us this week, you guys. Super fun discussion. And Michael and I will see you next Thursday morning at 6:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time.
8:30 Central.
Have a good week, you guys. Bye.
Bye.